What is up, guys? Welcome back to Between the Pylons. I'm John Camacho. Thank you so much for watching, and today we are talking about the Seattle Seahawks draft review, and let's get right into it with the draft day guidelines. And these are just some of my rules that I look at when I study every single draft class, and I think it's something that should be thought about going into every single draft as well, as far as teams. And this is just based on my study of past teams and past drafts. First things first, what was the plan? And for the Seattle Seahawks, I never know. I don't. Seattle Seahawks, I mean, I'm always just kind of at a loss for their draft. It seems like every single year, they're just head-scratching moves for me in the moment, and then it always seems to work out. It really does. I don't know what it is in past years, not so much this year. In past years, I've always liked their day 3 picks way more than I've liked their day 2 picks and day 1 picks. This year I can't really say that, but that's fine. It's just very strange for me, but again, they always figure it out. They obviously know a little bit more than I do about football, which is fair. That's probably about right, I'm just gonna sit there. I don't know. I guess they're just following their board like they do every year, and their board is just always so different than what my board is. But that's good. I mean, they're looking at things, I guess, through a different prism. But moving on, did they take a offensive lineman in the first 4 rounds? Yes, they did. They took a guard out of LSU in the 3rd round, and then did they take a strength of the draft? Right. So the strength of the draft this year was obviously wide receiver. I think every team should always attack the strength of the draft at some point in the draft. If it's a need, get it early. If it's not a need, still get it late. Add a little bit of depth to your team. There's nothing wrong with that, because it always happens every single year. There's always a couple positions where you see there being a lot of depth, and that depth just kind of trickles down throughout the draft. And you look at guys that fell to the 5th round, and you're like, man, how did this guy fall to the 5th round? That was wide receivers this year. And for the Seahawks, yes, they did. They took a wide receiver late. But let's get to the picks, guys, and I'll be honest with you guys, this was a head-scratching draft for me from top to bottom, and like I said at the very beginning, they always seem to figure it out. It always seems to kind of work out. They always seem to hit on a couple players that I'm kind of surprised they hit on. And hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully, like every other year, I look back in a couple years and I'm like, okay, that draft wasn't as bad as I remember thinking it was at the time. So here I might not be kind, but take it all with a grain of salt. The Seahawks are just consistently in the playoffs every single year and consistently making a run at the Super Bowl every single year. So they're doing something right. With their first pick 27 overall, they do take Jordan Brooks, linebacker out of Texas Tech. And this was an incredible reach. I'm actually going to do a deep dive video. That is actually the next series that I plan on doing after I'm finished with the draft review series. Don't know exactly when I'll get that out, but it will be pretty soon. I'm gonna dive into this pick. I did no research on Jordan Brown, and studying for this pick in particular, I did a little bit, but I knew I was already going to do a deep dive, so I didn't worry about it too much. You guys know it. This was a huge surprise. This was probably the biggest surprise in the draft, but it wasn't, because I believe 1 pick earlier, the Packers had just taken Jordan Love, so that this pick kind of got thrown under the rug in the national media news. And then the Raiders shocked everybody with their pick at 19 overall. So it just kind of went unnoticed a little bit that Jordan Brooks, linebacker out of Texas Tech, went in the 1st round. I mean, man, that's just weird. That's so surprising to me. I would have lost a lot of money if you put that bet in front of me and said, hey, at whatever odds, I probably would have put a lot of money on him not going in the 1st round. And of course, the Seahawks would have made me very wrong and made me very poor. But moving on, like I said, I'm going to do a video on that. So please subscribe to the channel and look out for that video. But moving on, in the 2nd round, they at pick 48 overall, they do take Darrell Taylor, defensive end out of Tennessee, my home state. So I actually did do a little bit of work on this guy. I did not see him as a day 2 pick at all. I thought this was a huge reach. I wouldn't have considered him really in the top 4 rounds. I really don't think I would have. To me, he is built like an NFL defensive end, so I get that side of it, but he doesn't pop athletically, and I just did not see any exceptional pass rush moves. So I guess you're taking this pick on potential and upside, and that's fine. I think I would have named a lot of guys before I got to Darrell Taylor as a guy that I really conceivably saw as an upside pick in the 2nd round. I would have understood it. I wouldn't be complaining complaining if I saw this in the 4th round. Yeah, it still would have been probably too early for me. If I'm the GM, I probably don't make that pick, but that's fine. I'm not for a reason. But I just don't. I don't get it. Again, does not pop athletically to me at all. Does not show just the intangibles that I want to see as far as the defensive end. Yes, he is built like a defensive end, an NFL defensive player, but other than that, I just don't see it. And I'm sorry, Seahawks fans. This is one of those picks that I said I don't get it. This was one of the more head-scratching picks for me in the 2nd round. Just made absolutely no sense, but they do it anyway, and just is what it is. And in the 3rd round, pick 69 overall, the Seahawks take a very Seahawks player and Damian Lewis, guard out of LSU. And this is a guy who's going to be a road grader. He's a really good run blocker on film. And I spent a lot of time watching the LSU offensive line, and it was pretty good, especially in run blocking. I would have told you that Damian Lewis was probably the weak link in the interior part of that offensive line for me. So I didn't get him as a day 2 pick, but I get the value for the Seahawks specifically. This is a team that wants to run the ball. I don't get why. You have one of the top, you have a top 5 quarterback at your position. You have some pretty good weapons on the outside of wide receiver. I don't understand why this team wouldn't look to try and sling the ball down the field a little bit more than they do. But they are adamant in the fact that they want to be a run-first football team, and they make picks like this that prove that. So, I guess that kind of goes into what was the plan. Well, the plan was to get better at running the football, and they did that, I guess. So they take Damian Lewis here. Again, I don't love the value in general. If you made me pick a big board, he's not going to be at 69 overall. He's probably not going to be in the top 100, but for team by team value, I do understand it. It makes a lot of sense. As far as draft day trades, the Seahawks kind of didn't make a ton of moves, but the moves they did make were a little bit up and down for me. In the 2nd round, they actually traded up to 48 overall with the Jets. So they trade a 3rd round pick, and they trade pick 101 to move up from 59 to 48 to land Darrell Taylor. I don't get that. I mean, like I said, my value for Darrell Taylor was not that high, and that's going to happen. I mean, I'm going to obviously be lower on certain players and higher on other players, and that just that comes with the game. I understand that. That is what it is. I don't understand trading up for Darrell Taylor. I don't. I didn't see him as a top 100 player. I can't imagine any team saw him as a top 50 player other than the Seahawks. And obviously, I'm wrong. They made the move. They were trying to get ahead of somebody that must have felt had a good chance at taking their guy, Darrell Taylor here. I don't get it, but that's just me. That's just my personal opinion, so I'll leave it at that there. But let's move on to some of my closing thoughts. My favorite move for the Seahawks was unfortunately taking the guard out of LSU in the 3rd round. That's not a good thing. I shouldn't love that pick the most because I really just... I explained it more than I actually loved it. Like I didn't see Damian Lewis as a guy who would have been in my top 100 if I made a big board. I don't think he would have been there. I think I could name 99 to 100 players that I probably liked more than him. I could have probably named more guards that I liked more than him that were there in the 3rd round at 69 overall. But I get it for what the Seahawks are doing, so I didn't have an issue with it from that standpoint. So that, I guess, is my favorite move. My least favorite move is pretty much most of this draft. I didn't like their draft at all, and it's really not just their first 3 rounds, just the rounds I talk about. If we go down the list, in the 4th round, they take Kobe Parkinson, a tight end out of Stanford, who, I'm whatever on. I didn't do a lot of work on him. He was one of those guys that I probably watched 50 to 75 snaps on and wrote a couple notes and moved on. I don't have a huge base of knowledge on him, but that's fine. DJ Dallas, another 4th round pick, running back out of Miami. This was a huge surprise to me. I do a ton of work on the running back and wide receiver position specifically. You know that if you follow my channel at all, pretty much every video that I put out in the months leading up to the draft were draft profiles on either a running back or a wide receiver. I dipped into a couple other positions, but really not much. I follow it very closely because I'm a big fantasy football fan, and those are the positions that affect fantasy football the most, so that's kind of what I follow the most of. And DJ Dallas wasn't on that list. Of a long list of running backs that I watched, a long list of running backs in which a lot of them were not drafted. DJ Dallas was not on that list. So I watched about 20 snaps coming into this video just to get a kind of an idea of him, just because I was surprised more than anything. And okay, whatever. Maybe, I kind of came away with it. It was like, okay, I'm not going to give you any takeaways because it wasn't enough of a sample size for me to have any takeaways really. But it just an absolute shock there in the fourth round. But again, that's what the Seahawks always do. That pick really just goes into what they were thinking coming into the draft. They took a run blocking offensive lineman in the third round, and they took another running back in the fourth round because they did lose Chris Carson and Rashad Penny in the final games of the season last year, and they were kind of without a running back, and they had to bring beast mode back to have one final run in the postseason because of it. So I get adding depth to the position because the players you have right now are kind of injury prone and have struggled to stay on the field. But man, he was not a fourth round running back by anybody's standards that I know of, because if I would have seen him on any list, I probably would have gone and done the work on him. He was not on my radar at all, and that's not a good thing, especially for me who really follows that position. I can't say that enough. Like I don't want to shit on the player because I don't know. That might be perfect value and I just missed it, and he just, for whatever reason, I just didn't see it. But like, man, that's surprising. But I'll move on. Just the rest of the draft, man. My whole point of going down that list of players, they take Steven Sullivan, tight end out of LSU, and Moss, the Randy Moss's son, the tight end out of LSU, the Randy Moss's son went undrafted, which was just wild to me. Like, it's seventh round pick. Why would you not take a shot on the Randy Moss bloodline, right? But whatever. Man, it's just a very weird draft. I did not like it at all. The biggest surprise for me is just the picks that they made. I guess I'm kind of cheating a little bit with these questions, but man, I just, I feel like I'm just a recorder saying the same thing. I don't get it. I don't want to hate on it too much because the Seahawks have proven me wrong in the past. But all right, my final grade for the Seahawks is an F. I'm going to stand by it for all the reasons I've said through this video. I did not like this draft at all. I hope I'm wrong. I really do. I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Please like and subscribe. Check back for more videos. Let me know in the comments what you guys thought about this draft for the Seahawks. Let me know what I'm wrong about, what I'm right about, and your thoughts, because I really do love to hear them. And please check back for more videos soon. Peace out, guys. Bye.